They do? Okay, so what you want? Okay. I don't know. Hey, why did you do this? Don't okay. Hi.
Start recording.
Yes, it's recorded.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. All right. So we're calling it the resume and the LinkedIn crafting workshop, but really it's more about your entire application packet. Okay. So we'll start off, and really what we're talking about applies to everything is what I should say. We're not going to go into all the details in every single document or anything like that. We're going to focus mostly on resumes, but what we're talking about will apply to everything. So let me ask you this. What is the overall goal of your application package? Get hired? Okay, that's the ultimate end goal, right? But what's the next step goal? Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay. So to get employers interested, what else?
To get your employer to read your application.
Yeah, get them to spend more time on you. So basically, yeah, I go into a little bit more onto it, but you're demonstrating that you understand the company and their product. Okay. That's important because that sets you aside from probably like 90% of all the other people who are applying for the job. I'm making that statistic up, but it's still probably really high. Okay. Because most people don't specialize or tailor their resumes. So that's what you're trying to do here. So showing that you are actually understand the company and their product shows also that you're interested, shows that you want to be a part of them. Okay. You are showing a genuine interest in working for the company. You're not just sending out blind resumes or blind applications. You're actually focusing on them. Okay. They like that. They like to know. I mean, think about when you're like dating or something like that, right? You don't want somebody who's just randomly picking people out of the crowd. You want somebody who's actually like focusing on you because they like you, right? Along those same lines. You're also trying to make it easy for the employer to picture you as part of the team. Okay. You are basically crafting the picture about yourself that they look at you and they're like, oh yeah, they totally would fit in, right? They already know mostly what they need, what they don't know, we can teach them, but they would fit on our group. They fit in our culture, right? So it's another part. And then you're also trying to convince them that you should already be working there. Okay. To the point where, I mean, this is like the ultimate goal, right? This is the one where if you already have experience and everything and you're showing it to them, they're like, how have we not already scalped this person? Right? How do we not already steal them from somebody else? So these first three, you should be able to do now. Okay. This last one probably comes with a little bit more experience, but still something you can totally do. Okay. So those are your overall goals of your application package. What goes into the application package? I'm actually going to write this down too. So when I say application package, what am I meaning? What are all the various pieces? Cover letter, resume, references, okay, anything else? Actually, just thought of one I didn't list. Sorry? Portfolio? Okay, I thought of two more I didn't list. Yes. CV? Actually going to go with a resume or CV. But yes. Anything else? Okay. So yes, absolutely agree on the resume. The purpose of the resume is to display your qualifications. It's to get you the interview. Okay. The resume is not going to get you a job. Most definitely, it's not going to be sending your resume and you get a job. The goal of the resume is to pique their interest to the point where they actually want to bring you in and talk to you. Okay. Then you have your cover letter. So that summarizes all of your qualifications. It's basically giving the overview of your resume, and it helps to explain any bumps, right? So if you had a gap in your employment of more than a couple of months or anything like that, you can explain it in the cover letter. If your GPA was really low, and you think that might be a concern, you can explain that. Okay? So cover letter comes in handy there. Then your list of references. That shows that people will vouch for you. Okay? I like to have a separate list of references as a separate document that I can turn in. most jobs will only give you space to list 3 references, right? When you actually turn in the list, you can turn in as many as you want, right? Not only that, you can also show that when I do my list of references, I actually group it. So if I'm talking about my academic skills, I have a group of 4 or 5 references who can talk about that. Talking about my management skills, 4 or 5 people who can do that. So I've actually got a large list of references, and this comes back to strategizing to figure out who you can use, right? But when you do it like that and you actually are clustering them, it's impressive, right? It shows, wow, this person has a lot of people who can talk about them. Okay. But doing the list of references, even if you only have 3, it's good. It looks like part of the overall package. It's nice. Okay. Sample work. So this is the portfolio. Okay. Yes, I did have it. Yeah. So you're showing what you're capable of. This could be anything that you want to show off, brag about, right? Any projects, anything like that, side projects. And then your emails. Okay. This is the one that people often overlook. Your emails are usually going to be the first time that you actually communicate with the company. Okay. They help to give that first impression. They set the tone for everything else. So most likely when you're contacted for that first interview or anything like that, it's going to be through email. So how you respond definitely matters. Okay. If you write to the hiring manager to ask questions, you better write like really well. It needs to be a very professional sounding email. You better spell check. Everything like that. Like it needs to be spot on because the communications that you're sharing definitely matter. That also does go for phone calls too. So it's not actually like a package thing, but be ready for phone calls too to be able to answer professionally and talk good. Okay. Okay. Now your resume. It is a document of contradictions, right? You're supposed to be humble, but you're supposed to talk about your accomplishments. This is, I think, what hangs most people up when they start writing their resume because they don't like to talk about themselves in this way. Okay. So you kind of got to get past that. You're supposed to brag, but you're not supposed to exaggerate. So you're supposed to really highlight all of your main accomplishments, but again, you're also not supposed to take credit for what your entire team did, right? It's kind of a weird balance. You're supposed to be creative and trying to highlight the things that you did, but you can't make stuff up because you will always get found out and it's embarrassing and gets you blacklisted. And then being the team player, but it's really hard because while you're trying to say that you and your team did all of this, you can't keep focusing on saying just that your team did this. You need to say that you did this because it's true. Like there's a weird balancing act. Okay. All right, let's get into actual resume formats. Hello. You didn't miss much.
We all did.
Okay. So we're going to focus mostly on resumes for this. Again, like I said, everything that we're going to talk about applies to all of your documentation, but we're going to focus mostly on resumes, and it'll also cross over very easily to LinkedIn. I could spend 2 hours talking about LinkedIn. I have very frequently. We'll touch on it some if we have time. Neha actually is letting us pick apart her profile, so hopefully we'll have time to get to that. I mean, give feedback. Sorry. So generally speaking, there's 3 different types of resume formats. There's reverse chronological order, which is where you start with your most recent experience and start working your way back. Okay? If you are like a seasoned professional, usually you only go back for about 15 years. You don't want to go much further than that. Okay. Starting off, it's fine if you have like 1 experience you can put on there. All right. The functional resume, that's more where you present specific needs that you are addressing with your experiences. So instead of saying that I started with a job here and went work back to each job, you say, okay, you're looking for leadership skills. Here's what I've done for leadership, right? You're looking for programming. Here's what I've done for programming. So you're actually breaking it down and covering each skill specifically. And then there's a combination or a hybrid. So where you actually, for my resume, the way I've done it is I address different areas. So if I'm talking about my academic teaching ability, then I will create an area for academics and then go back and go reverse chronological talking about the academics. Okay. If I'm talking about leadership, I'll do the same thing. So you break it up and you can do it a variety of ways. Most of the time when you look at resumes, you see the reverse chronological. Okay. The reason that you might go functional, I can think of two reasons off the top of my head. One is to highlight specific skills, like just really nail it down and strengthen it. The other is to make it not so obvious if you have gaps in your employment. Okay, it's really obvious if you took a year off with reverse chronological, because most people can look at the years and figure out, oh, nope, they're missing one, right? Functional makes it a little bit more challenging in order to do that. Your general rule for length. If you have less than 5 years of experience, keep it to 1 page. All right. If you have more than 5 years of experience, then you go up to 2 pages. You don't go beyond 2 pages. Anything beyond 2 pages, you need to switch over to a CV, and they will usually specifically ask for a CV. Okay. Most of the time, if they don't say CV, they want a resume. Okay. You all should be focusing on that 1 pager at this point, for the most part, I think. If you all have questions at all, interrupt, raise your hands. It's all good. Okay.
Consider being at school and work, you would say that you would years,
Yes.
like a job at Starbucks.
I would list both of those at the same time. So it depends on how much experience you have. Okay. If you don't have any other job experience in Starbucks, I would list Starbucks and I would explain the transferable skills. Okay, because you do a lot. Customer service, keeping rush, multitasking, all of that. So those are things you can definitely highlight. Yeah, I would list both. I wouldn't go to 2 pages. I wouldn't count that towards your 2-page mark, but yeah. Other questions for now? Okay. All right, some main tips to remember when you're writing it. And this applies throughout the document and all documents again. So you want to be concise and you want to be efficient. You want to cut out the junk words. Okay, that means instead of saying in order to, you just say to. Okay, in order is completely useless. It doesn't do any good in the statement in order to. So just skip it, go to 2. So that is going for the concise, that is going for the efficient. If you can find 1 word that would take the place of 5, do it. Okay. The sources are your friends. Right, same with the dictionary. Use strong language. What do I mean by strong language? Oh, yes, I will wait. Action verb, thank you. Good. Can you give an example? This is the problem. I can never think of examples off the top of my head. I should have written one down. Computing, yes. So computing is, okay. Hang on. Instead of saying I have led a team of 4 people, I led a team of 4 people. Okay, get rid of the have. You don't need the being verb, doesn't do you any good. Okay, it weakens what you're saying. So I led is a lot stronger than saying I have led. Okay, that sort of thing. So when you're starting with those action verbs, it's something that's strong. It just jumps right in. It says you did this without having to say I did leading, right? We'll look at some examples as we go too. You don't want to use I or we. Why would you not want to use I or we or the first person in your resume? They know it's you, yeah? Okay. And it gets extremely repetitive really fast. Every line says I. Like, you don't need it. Okay, they know you're talking about you. So get rid of it. Just skip the I, skip the we, no first person. This might not be true for doing a cover letter. But for your resume, for your LinkedIn, all of that stuff, you can skip it. Okay. Use the right tense. Okay. So using the right tense, that means if you are currently doing it, it is present tense. Okay. If you have done it in the past, it should be past tense. You should not be using future tense. Right. That doesn't play into it. So I'm talking, if I'm saying like I'm giving this presentation, instead of saying I have given this presentation, well, I'm doing it currently. That doesn't make sense, right? I give presentations. That makes more sense. So just watch your tense. Make sure you're saying what you mean. Be consistent. So that comes in a number of different ways, and we'll talk more about being consistent later, but it's use consistent phrasing, use consistent formatting, all of that. Use numbers. That doesn't actually mean use numerical numbers or versus alpha numbers. That means use numbers to back up what you're saying. So you're going to make a lot of claims in your resume saying that you can do this or that you did do this or that you did do that. Use numbers to actually support it. So that means that going back to Starbucks, if I'm saying that I served in a very rapid paced environment and was able to handle a lot of customers, give an actual quantification to that, right? I don't know what a realistic number of customer is, but if I were to say I handled 100 customers in an hour, right? Something where you can actually say the number that's passing through and show how fast you were with it. That sort of thing helps. So be able to quantify stuff, and we'll come back and we'll work some examples on that. And then keywords. We'll say keywords a lot throughout this. You need to check the post that you're applying to, right? And find the words that they're emphasizing, find the words that they want to see, and then you need to use them, okay? Your resume is not going to be one size fits all. You're gonna have to adapt your resume per post, which is why we talked about master resumes earlier. But make sure you're hitting those keywords. Okay, let's actually talk about the anatomy of the resume. Starting with how you save it, okay? How you name it makes a difference. You don't want to just call it resume because they're receiving hundreds of resumes. So you just call yours resume, it doesn't tell them much. So just give them your name, say resume, and then the date. Okay? That also helps you to keep it straight. So if you look at the date, you can tell which one is your most recent. So when you go and you change it and adapt it, that's fine. I actually, when I name it, I like to include either the position or the company too. And I think that's fine to give them that information too. But as you are trying to keep organized and you're going back and you're modifying your resume for another job, knowing that it was for a similar job, you can go back, pick it, and then adjust it easily. Okay, so it's just organization. All right, name and contact information. Your professional summary and objective, your education, experiences, skills, and then you might have other sections. Can you think of what other sections you might have? Other than just these? Yes.
Correct.
References? References, we'll come back to that. I'm gonna say no. Certification's good. Relevant coursework, yep. Yes. Different projects. Leadership. I'm gonna go ahead and expand that one and put volunteering. Awards, yeah. Awards, scholarships, etc. Yes,
Organization.
organizations. Do you want organizations? It's not a trick question. Unless you think no, in which case, yes, it is a trick question. Yes, you want to be members of organizations, right? As a student, you want to be a member of organizations because it gives you that a chance for leadership skills and for volunteering. It also helps you to network early with other people who are going to be pursuing similar jobs. So it can be eventually helpful. And it just helps you to stay involved, which is good. Professional organizations are slightly different. All right, those are the ones that you actually pay for membership of. So BMES, you can get a student membership of. A couple of the professional societies that we encourage students who are interested in regulatory or quality. If you go for RAPS, which is the Regulatory Affairs Professional Society, they have student memberships for $35, right? So it's not overly expensive. But the reason that you join is because it shows that you have taken a specific interest in that line of work for a long time now, right? It shows that you are actually really interested in it. So it helps to give credence, that's not the right, what is it? Helps to give support. I have to look that word up later. Helps to support the fact that you are a professional trying to get a job in this field. Okay, it helps to create your brand when you join those professional organizations. You don't have to join a lot of them, but joining some just helps. The other thing that it does is it gives you a lot of networking opportunities. So it makes it easier for you to go out, talk to other members, learn more about the career field. So organizations are definitely good. Another one is publications. If you are going to go off and start publishing or anything like that, having a publication section can be good. I had one more I was going to throw up there. Oh, related to certifications, continued education. Okay. Actually related to both of these. Okay, basically anything that you do outside of school, right? If you're going and you're doing a bunch of online classes to learn how to program better, you can list that. Okay, that's good. It shows that you are taking an outside interest. So other things that you can put on there. So there's a lot of sections you can put together. Okay. All right. So first section that we listed of the main group that you need to do is your name and your contact information. You do not want to do this as a header. Okay, in the past, I've recommended as a header. Don't do it as a header. I learned that that was bad. Don't do that. You do want it in the same space as a header. You may adjust the margins if needed. So I meant to have mine up to show. That's okay. Oh, I already have it up there. Okay. The reason you don't want to do it as a header is because when you turn it in to the companies, most of the time they have an algorithm that's going to go through your resume and pick it apart looking for keywords and things like that. The algorithms typically don't recognize headers. So anything that you have in the header won't be read. It'll just be deleted. So it looks like you turned in a resume without a name on it if you do it that way. Okay, so don't do that. But you include your city, state, your cell phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn profile, which we should all get a LinkedIn profile. You can specialize, you can change the name of your LinkedIn profile. Usually it'll be your name with a bunch of numbers after it. You can go through and it's really easy to edit that and just change it to your name or some version of your name that's easy to remember and easy to see. Okay? Do you want to use your school email address? No? Why? What's that? You've been here, stop it. Somebody who hasn't been here before, do you want to use your school email address? Way to give it away. Okay. So no, why don't you want to use your school address? Right, when you graduate, you're gonna lose it. Okay, it's within a year, if not like immediate for UTD. Other schools, you keep it longer, it depends on the school you're attending, but you're gonna lose it. Okay, here. And it's a pain in the butt to go through and have to tell everyone, oh, wait, my email address changed here, can you use this one instead? So just start off using a professional sounding email address. All right, if you can do something with your name, all the better. Don't include your birth year. I've only seen old people doing that for the most part, but don't just do that. Don't, yeah. The other thing with including your email address and using the school one is it does not help your brand. It does not help you to look as a professional. It helps to make you look like a student. So if you remember last time those are here, when you're setting up your brand, that is what you want people to think of you as. You don't want people to think of you as a student, but you want them to think of you as a young professional. Okay, so that's what your resume is building, is that image of you as a young professional. So try to embrace that as much as you can. All right. The other thing with the header is you want to try to use this throughout your application documents, right? So on your list of references, on your cover letter, try to keep it consistent. It makes it look like a nice tight package, right? It looks very professional when you do that. That consistency is good. Okay. Any questions?
Be like AOL and think it's like cousin dating.
Yes. I would not use AOL, probably wouldn't use Hotmail. Yahoo is probably dated, but that's okay. I'm old. Gmail is fine, anything like that.
He wanted to be the first, but we got it like, he was like, I'm gonna be the first to get her name, so no one else can have it. Now I have this AOL, it's like carbon dated, it's like a fossil.
I don't know if people are actually that picky about it, but
Okay.
yeah. They might laugh. All right, oops, where did you? Oh. All right, your professional summary or objective. Okay, so your objective tends to focus on what you want to do and what your career goals are going to be. Okay, this was really trendy in kind of the 90s and the early 2000s. You're basically saying, yes, my ultimate goal is in 20 years, I want to be a president of a company and all this other stuff, and nobody cares. Okay. I mean, yes, it's good to show that you're ambitious, but really, your professional summary, your objective, you can take it and use it a lot better. Basically using it to summarize your overall resume. Okay, you do this in your cover letter too, but the thing is, cover letters are going away. Most people don't read cover letters, right? So instead, you can include very short blurb that just summarizes you. So trained leader, manager of teams, 13 years project management experience. Okay? The reason I want to list this here is because looking at my resume, I've had several jobs, usually that are only about 3 years long. So you wouldn't be able to tell quickly just looking at it that I've had 13 years of experience doing that because it's spread out over multiple jobs, right? So this is summarizing. Use numbers if you can. The other thing that you can do is you can talk about just expertise or your general trends in your career. Like I really focus on neuroscience, it's really cool, or whatever, right? So summary is probably the better way to go than doing an objective statement. Paragraphs are also out. Paragraphs take too long to read. Even if it's actually the same length, it's just intimidating. It looks like it would take a long time to read, so most people skip it. Okay. Bullet points look concise. Some general rules, if you use bullet points at any point throughout your resume or documents, you don't want any less than 3. And you don't really want to go more than 6. Okay, no more than 5 or 6. That includes when you're listing your experiences under a job, which if you look at some of my old ones, I've got like 20. So don't do that. Cut it down. Cut it down to just the main ones. And then also want to order your bullet points for the most important to the least important. Okay, and that's the most important for that particular job or that particular situation. So that would change depending on what you're applying for. Because when you see a resume and you start reading it, most people only spend like maybe 5 to 9 seconds reading a resume. So you can expect that they're going to spend 7 seconds around. Okay, so they're going to glance through the first things at the top are what their eyes going to catch. So they may look and see one experience and they'll read the first bullet and kind of skim the rest. Okay, so make sure you order it in importance. Okay, this is one of those things where it's also consistency with bullet points. Are you going to end it with a period or not? This sounds nitpicky, but it makes a difference. Okay, for me, bullet points are not sentences. Like trained leader and manager of teams with 13 years of project management experience is not a sentence. Okay, so ending it with a bullet point seems silly, or ending it with a period seems silly. So do as you do, just be consistent. If you put a period at the end of one, put it at the end of all of them. Yeah. All right, that's for your summary objective. The bullet points applies for everywhere. Okay, education. All right. So depending on the stage in your career is where you put your education. If you are a more recent grad, or if you're applying for a job that really cares about your education, then you want to put it earlier in your document, right? If I'm applying for a job at a university, it needs to be one of the first things I put up there because they need to see that I have a doctorate, okay? If I'm applying for a job as a test engineer and they don't really care if I have a master's or a bachelor's or anything like that, I'll put it at the end. Okay, and hit them up with the experience first because that's what they're more interested in. For most recent grads, you'll have it earlier. Okay, what do you think about including your GPA? Yeah, honors do it. Yeah. Do you? Yeah. Yeah, for sure, because they're going to check either way. Okay. Typically, the recommendation is if you are a recent grad and your GPA is 3.5 or higher, put it on there. Okay. If it's less than 3.5, maybe I'll put it on there. Okay. The other thing is, as you get further into your career, you don't want to put it on there. Yes.
Would you put it on there if you're still a current student?
Yes. Yes, I would. Yeah. Yeah. And you would probably stop after about 5 years being out in the professional world because your GPA matters less. That was a reflection of you back then, not now. Right. So if you're 5 years out, usually the recommendation is after 5 years, stop including it. Okay. But if you're 3.5 or higher, you want to put that puppy up there. Okay. When you list education on LinkedIn, just kind of flipping over for a second, you want to link it to the school. Okay. When you start filling in those sections, they have an autocomplete where it'll say, oh, you're at the University of Texas at Dallas. Is that the right one? Say yes. The reason that you do that is because it then associates you with UT Dallas. And anytime somebody searches UT Dallas, they will also be able to see you as an alumni or a current student or anything like that. And it gives you a nice little logo automatically on your profile, which is kind of nice. All right. But you want that linkage. You want that connection. What do you think about giving the year that you graduate? Based on this, how old do you think I am? Right? How'd you guess that? How? Right. So most of the time when somebody finishes their bachelor's, they're going to be about 21, 22, 23. Okay. So from that, you can guess ages fairly easily. Maybe less so on the master's or anything above like that. But from the earlier ones, you can guess age. Okay. Why do you not want to list age on your resume or give them any sort of ability to help guess their age? It's easy to get biased. It's easy to discriminate. Okay. Might think that you're too young, that you don't have enough experience just based purely on your age, which is crap, right? So you try not to give that sort of stuff away. On the reverse, I'm actually getting to the point where I'm a protected person. I'm over 40, so they can't discriminate against me. No, supposedly. But that I wouldn't want to put it on there because then it shows that I'm older, right? So I should probably go back and take that off. Yeah, so there's that. It might be less of an issue for younger, the closer you are to your graduation year, but as you get older, it becomes an issue. All right, that was education. Oh, it's already 12:18. Dang. Okay. Experience, professional experience, whatever, right? What is the difference between professional and non-professional experience? Typically, as a rule of thumb. One's paid, one's unpaid. Okay. Professional experience, typically people think that gets paid. All right. I usually just list the section as experience. And if you are a student and you're not being paid, being a student is still an experience. So you can list that, but I would not call it professional experience. That's the point that I'm trying to say there. So for experience, the things you want to list no matter what, your position title can be a general title followed by the specific title. So for example, I was an academic program officer. Nobody has any idea what that is because they made it up, right? So you can just give a little thing after it, assistant department head, right? It's basically what it means. But put your real title followed by whatever it is. You'll also find with a lot of jobs that they have different names for the exact same thing as other companies. So putting that general title after it can kind of help connect the dots for people. You want to put your company, the department, the lab, your general location, so back to that city, state, and the dates you worked for them, so the month and the year. It is worth keeping somewhere in your records the actual day that you started and the actual day that you stopped. Okay? There are some security checks that when they go back, they want that information. So if you just have it handy in your master resume, it makes your life a lot easier. Okay? I've had to go look it up multiple times because I keep forgetting to say this. So, but generally, just for your resume, putting the month and the year is fine. All right. It can be handy if you have multiple jobs at the same place to put something like the University of Texas at Dallas, where you list when you started and when you ended. But I've had multiple jobs at UTD. So it's kind of like my main header, and then underneath that, I break it out and I start going into the different jobs. Okay. So you can organize your resume in multiple ways to make it easy for people to see that. Okay, so that's the basic one information you want to have. And then you want to get to your actual experiences. Do not use the job description for your experience. Like, don't just list the job description. Right? That's, people can tell. That's lazy. right? And it's very non-specific to what you actually did. And most of the time, it's poorly written. So don't do that. Do use it for getting some, you do want to use the job description. It can help to get you started. Okay, it can help at least as a starting point, but don't just copy and paste. Use your job post, the job that you're applying for the keywords and phrases, and then use those in your actual experience. Okay. What I typically try to do is you look for those keywords and phrases, then you try to think upon what you've done and figure out the experiences that actually fit it, and use those. So this is where it comes in handy, also having that master resume where you can just easily pluck things and plug it in. But it'll take some time otherwise. Okay. Don't overload a bullet or a sentence with too many thoughts. So this is the one that's usually like 3 lines long, where they're saying like, I led a team of 5 people to improve sales by 22% in the 3rd quarter. And we were awesome and won a bunch of awards, and all, like, you just keep going and going. You want to keep it to 1 or 2 thoughts. Like, I led a team of 5, we did great. Okay. You can break that sentence down into multiple sentences. If you have too many thoughts into one sentence, it's really hard to read. And it's really hard to know what you're supposed to focus on. So don't try to pack it too full. Start each bullet or nearly each bullet with an action verb. So demonstrated, led, programmed, that variety of things. Go through multiple times to cut out the extra words. So again, that in order, you just make it 2, right? However, you don't need however. And anything like that. Take out the non-objective words and replace them with objective words. So what do we mean by non-objective words? What do you think? I dealt with a lot of customers. What is a lot? Okay, that's not objective. It can be something different for you than for me. For me, a lot could be 2, because I don't like a lot of people, right? For you, it could be 200. So you want to take those non-objective words out and try to use objective words. And that also makes it easier to quantify things, to put numbers in there so people can see it. Yeah, and then be sure you're using your keywords. So this is just an example of some of my resume. So managed, represented, created, managed, organized, led. Try to use some actual numbers here. So just a variety, right? I think it's fairly efficient. At least last time I checked, it was fairly efficient. There's not a lot of extra words in here. Questions on how you list experiences, how you start writing them? Okay. Oh, actually, let's do the giveaway really quick. Sorry. Pause. All right, let's see. Neha, pick a number between 1 and 25. 3? Okay, pick a number between 1 and 25.
2.
Okay, one more, pick a number between 1 and 25.
15.
15. Okay, 3, 2, so that's 20 divided by 3, so that's 6-ish. We'll go with 6. All right, so looking at the number 6 on my thing is MJ? MJ, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. The portfolio, UTE branded. Yes. Why do we use portfolios? I don't know. When you go to the career fair, are you going to bring your laptop? No, right? You're not going to bring your laptop. You're not going to bring your tablet or anything like that. You're going to bring your portfolio, which will have your documents in it. It'll also give you a place to write all your notes, everything like that. So you can put your resumes in it, everything. It looks more professional, right? And it's not distracting like a laptop or anything along those lines. So portfolios, they're a good thing to have. We'll be giving those away for the next 2 events also. Let's get another number. Yeah. 20. Okay, I'm not gonna average this one. We're just gonna go down to 20. Joseph, all right. What you can't tell because it's white on white is we have a I heart bioengineering basically.
Oh.
So. Okay, that's, yeah. It was fun, all right? We enjoyed it. It was good. Okay. That's it for the giveaways for now. Jumping back into the actual talk. Everybody sounded good on experience. Let's talk about skills. All right. So skills, they're another summary point, but it's just a list. It's really easy. So if you are re-emphasizing things that you've already talked about in your experiences, that's great. Okay. If you talked about that you already know how to do computer programming, this is where you also re-emphasize it and you actually list out all the different programs that you can do. You can include anything relevant here that you can give support for. Okay. Don't list things here that you can't say how you have experience doing it, how you have the skills to do it. Okay. Not because they're going to look at your resume and say, oh, well, I can't find the support for it in the resume. But when you get to the interview and they're like, oh, you can code in C++. And you're like, yeah, I said that. Right. So make sure you can actually back it up. You can include sublists. So when we're talking about programming languages, you can actually list all the languages that you do. If you speak foreign languages, you can talk about all the foreign languages that you speak, everything like that. And it is a great place to plug in more of those keywords. Okay. Questions about your skills or anything like that you can list. Okay. So those were the main areas. Let's talk about getting past the algorithms. Yes. Demonstrate the soft skills more through your experiences. You can list them, but it's really easy for everyone to list communications, right? So you want to demonstrate that more in your bullet points, saying that I presented in front of a crowd of 50 or whatever, right? Worked on a team of 6. Like that's where you can demonstrate that better is in your experiences. If you don't have a lot of things to list, then yes, you can list more of that under your skills experience too. Okay, so you're kind of padding it a little bit. The other thing with the skills is if you do already list somewhere earlier where you do all your programming languages, you don't really want to repeat all those languages again, unless you're trying to fill space. Okay, so it is someplace where you can kind of cheat and fill space to get to a full page if you don't already get to a full page. But if you don't need to do that, don't do it. Okay. All right. Getting past the algorithms. Almost everybody uses some sort of algorithm. If it's a large company, your application is going to go through some sort of algorithm. So what I mean by algorithm is it's going to go through and they are going to look for keywords before it ever gets to a human. And it's going to say, yes, this is a good resume. No, this doesn't meet our minimum qualifications. Okay. A lot of people get filtered out through the algorithm, right? So you want to try to write your resume for both humans and for the algorithm. So when you write it, check it against a plain text file. So save it in your nice fancy everything like that, but then also go back and save it as a .txt and look at it. When I look at my resume, did this recently. Hang on, I meant to have this pulled up. There we go. Okay. Okay, so when I look at my resume, this is where I realized that my header doesn't show up. Right, the first thing you see is where I live, but not my name. Okay, so the .txt, the plain text, does not recognize headers or footers. Okay, it's going to look like this. It's not going to give you all your formatting, all the bolding, the underlining, everything like that you do. It's going to go away, and that's fine. Because usually it's a computer that's looking at it, so it doesn't matter the beautiful formatting, but you want to make sure it still includes everything that you wrote. Okay, so that's what you're checking for with that. All right. Okay, so no headers or footers, no pictures or graphics, which you really wouldn't include anyways. No crazy fonts or formatting, because formatting is going to get lost. If you used standard bullet points, they should show up. So standard being like such as dots or dots, nice. If you use dots or dashes, those would still show up. If you're gonna go through and put little stars or little cells or little, I have no idea what gears, I don't know. Those aren't gonna show up. And it may actually mess up the thing where it can't read your application. You just get thrown out because it can't read your application. Okay, so that's the bigger issue there. You must have keywords. So again, I keep saying keywords. This is why you have to have those keywords. It's because the algorithm is going to look for them. Okay. They will not tell you what the keywords are. You have to read the job post and figure it out for yourself. But it shouldn't be too hard. And as a general rule, when you submit your resume, you do submit it as a PDF. Okay, because that keeps all of your fancy formatting and everything in place where it's supposed to be. Unless they specifically say to submit it as a doc or a text. Okay. You submit it however they tell you to do it. I also like to do the PDF unless I'm told otherwise, because that means that they can't go in and mess it up somehow, right? As a general rule, anytime you're doing anything with professional documents that you don't want anybody to manipulate, you just do it as a PDF. Questions about that? All right. Getting past the humans. Okay. Again, general rules, you want to do 11 to 12 point font, because much smaller than that, and it's bad for old eyes. Okay. Use traditional fonts like Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman. Calibri has definitely become one of the more popular ones. Keep in mind that the different fonts, even if they are the same size, like these three are the same size, they're all, I think I use 11 point font. It takes up a different amount of space. Okay. When you are fighting to get your resume onto a single page, that can make a difference. Okay. So do keep that in mind. You can adjust the font if you need to, but keep it somewhat normal looking. The other thing is, if you look at Arial, look how crowded that looks compared to these other two with the space in between. Okay. So when you're looking at your overall document and you're trying to figure out, does this look good? You are actually looking at that because the general appearance of the document makes a difference too. The person just gets it and it looks super crowded and there's not enough white space and everything like that, it makes a difference. You want it to be a good looking document. Which is a weird thing to say, but that's what you want. Okay. All right. When you print your resume, you want to use a heavier weight resume paper. So this is resume paper if you've never experienced with it before. And this is actually fairly lightweight. I'm actually disappointed in it, but it's what the bookstore sold. So the idea though, you feel it, is that it feels different from normal paper. Right? Feels fancy. The other thing with the heavier weight paper, so this is 24. Don't ask me what the weight means because I couldn't tell you. But this is 24-pound weight paper. If you go for something that's a little heavier, when person picks it up and you're at a career fair and you're handing it to them and they look at it, it will automatically stand up. Right? So as opposed to a regular piece of paper that's going to drip like this and they like flip it all around, the heavier weight paper, you just hand it to them and it's already standing up. Okay. So you do want to use resume paper. You don't want to go with crazy colors. There's a lot of colors out there. Stick with the white, the off-white, or the linen colored. More traditional, those work well. Yes, so. Yes. Oh, we'll have something at the end.
For those, like all those online things like resume builders and stuff, and it kind of puts it back into a Word document that I think it's like different text boxes. Would that mess up when you get into like the algorithm and stuff? Or can you use like
I think if it's using boxes, yes.
Okay.
I would avoid using tables or anything like that. Yeah.
It looks cool, but
It does, and I don't know specifically, like, I'm not positive that that wouldn't work,
Yeah.
but I would be wary.
Okay.
So save it as a text and see. You do want to balance your white space and the overall appearance of the document. We'll look at that in a second here. Use formatting cues. I'll give you another example of that, and do not include your references. Okay, don't say references available on request or anything like that. Just totally ignore it because they know that. Okay, if they want references, they will ask you. So this, you don't even mention references, it just takes up space. So it's just kind of another one that's fallen by the wayside and has become outdated. Okay, so what do I mean by balancing the white space and being creative with the formatting? So this is my resume. It is 2 pages because I've been around for a little while. You don't want it to be just a solid block of text. This actually has more text than I would prefer. But you want it to have a decent amount of white space. Okay, that way it doesn't just look overwhelming to the eye. What I mean by being creative with the formatting is how you organize things. So using like the bold and the underline for your main header. And then if you're coming down and doing a subheader, you can do italics, anything like that. You can do that sort of thing, right? Get creative with it. The main thing though is this where it comes back to being consistent. Right? If you are going to use that for your main header each time, then you need to use that for your header for each time where you do the bold and the underline. Otherwise it looks bad. If you are choosing to align things to the right side of the paper, you need to make sure that they are all actually aligned to the point where you can take a ruler, put it next to it, and everything's actually straight along the edge. All right? Seems nitpicky, but it makes a big difference in the appearance of the document and you. Okay. Yeah, that's my resume. This is what I meant though. So I have work-related experience, teaching experience, volunteer experience. So I broke it down into a couple of different ways. Really, you're directing them in however you want them to read it. Okay, so you are in control of their eyes to some extent. Okay, really quick, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, okay, now open, look at it. Okay, now stop. What was the main thing you took away? What were the main things that you saw? Sorry?
Registered nothing.
You registered nothing?
It's kind of blocky. So one section.
It is, it's kind of small too, yeah.
A lot of work.
A lot of words. Okay, yeah.
I don't know, like you could see the headings more clearly, but like just more text.
True. A lot of words, man. Okay, now I can come back and cut it down some. That amount of time that you were looking at it is about the amount of time that they will spend looking at your resume. Okay, so after you print it, do that. Like close your eyes, give it a couple seconds to reset, glance at it, time yourself 5 to 7 seconds and see what are the main things that pop out, not just appearance wise, because appearance is definitely important. You want to do that. But what can you read? What are you going to skim through and actually see as your main points? Okay. That's where it comes back to reordering things and making sure you have the most important on top, because that's what people tend to look at first, is the thing on top. Right. So, yes, okay. Okay, things to check when you go back at the end. So are you consistent? And that includes your formatting, your font sizes, your language. If you are talking in a certain way, make sure you talk that way throughout. Tenses, all of that. I would also, okay. Did you use your keywords? You should be able to go through and do a search on your document and have the keywords pop up a couple of times each. Okay, that's a good thing. You want that to happen. You don't want it to be too much. You don't want to use the word compute 20 times. Okay, that's just overwhelming. But you want it to appear a couple of times, 2 or 3, right? Did you repeat too much? Did you use the same word too much? So develop, teach, find, manage, represented, created, managed, organized, led, managed, assisted, liaised, developed, coordinated. You find that you will tend to start using the same one, like I've managed 3 times in here, right? And this is even after I've gone back and wordsmithed it to try to use the thesaurus to replace some of those same words. If you're saying created, then that's too much. Go back and use the thesaurus, figure something else out. And chances are you'll find another word that actually better describes what you did anyways. Okay. It is worth on your resume going back and almost looking up every single word to see if there's a better word for it. This is where you're really putting a lot of thought into, am I saying exactly what I want to say? Did you interrupt a section? So what I mean by that is if I'm listing this and I have it with these 3 bullet points and then these 2 bullet points appear at the top of the next page, that's not good. Okay. If you do something like that, you need to say continued on the next page. Right? Or try to get it down to where it's on the same page. Is that unnatural break? Just, you don't associate the two things together anymore. Okay, you have to flip the paper over, it throws it off. Did you use the computer or the human spelling and grammar check? So you definitely want to use the computer to go through and check everything, but then you need to go back and check it as a human. Okay, because there's 3 different versions of there. Right? There's 3 different versions of to. Okay. The other thing that can happen is you spell the word correctly, but it can be the completely wrong word. Right? For example, I used to try to tell people I was having digestive issues or saying that I was having an upset stomach. I thought I'd sound fancy, but I would go back and say I'm having gestational issues, which is definitely not the same. So this is where you want to go back and double check all of your words and make sure you're using the right spelling. I have other examples I can't talk about because they're inappropriate. It's when you spell a word that you think is correct and then you spell an inappropriate word. That's even worse. Okay. So always go back and double check, make sure you're using the words right. Did you tell and show? So this comes back to saying, I have this skill and then supporting it. Okay. So you always want to try to support it, provide the evidence there so it's easy for them to see. Okay. All right, we are actually out of time, unfortunately. Sorry, I went too long. We can work through this really quick. So good and bad, you have diagnose and treat patients of all ages. It's better to say diagnose and treat patients of all ages, including a 30% increase in pediatric patients since hire date. All right, quantifying it. You can look at these later. I will send out these slides. Same with this one where you're taking it and you're trying to break it down into actual bullets. So you can see this looks annoying to try to read. This is easier to read. And so that's bullets again. I can review that. You can practice on your own here. And then if you don't mind, if you could, this is the end of it. If you could go to the QR code on there, let us know how we did, how I can improve, if we need to keep this for next time, if we need to get rid of it or how to change it, will be really helpful for me. Coming up on the 21st, so we're skipping next week, but on the 21st, we have some recruiters coming in and we'll basically pepper them with questions asking, I don't know, how do we interact with recruiters, right? How do we follow up with recruiters, that sort of stuff. On the 28th, we'll do a writing workshop. So that's the one that you actually want to show up to with your resume. We'll talk for 20, 30 minutes going over a list of things that are common mistakes or things that you should check each time. And then the rest of the time will be just working on it. So we'll be wordsmithing. You can interact with us, you can ask questions, anything like that. We'll have pizza for that one. And then the actual career fair is on the 4th. And we already have 6 companies signed up. And we'll be getting more. Yeah, yes, yeah, most definitely. And I'll remember to do the giveaway at the beginning of class or beginning of the talk. So, okay. Thank you. Sorry we didn't get to be able to get to the examples. Sorry. But thank you all for coming and yeah, have a great weekend. You too, thanks.
And so I got an email, or I mean, I was warning that I allowed texting. I don't know if they proved that they got one, but I got that.
Okay, I didn't see that one, so that's good.
Okay, yeah, they're good. If they haven't, then I can just remind them.
Let me stop recording, which I typically do.